everyone. Welcome to This Just In.
And It's Grim, a bi-weekly series where two friends of 3 decades chat about dark subjects.
Before we begin, you should be warned that our series contains language, themes, and material not suitable for children or sensitive Sallies.
So hide your babies and your boomers, and let's dig in.
It's just his fucking face.
Yeah, I get it. No, I get it. I think
We're talking
honestly,
about David Caruso, by the way. Ladies
we
and
are.
gentlemen, we're just jumping in.
We're talking about celebrities that we just can't stand for no reason at all. Like, they're talented, they're probably great people, but we're just like, and mine is Christian Bale. I mean, I really don't like that guy. I think it's his voice. I think he's constantly like, sounds like he has marbles in his mouth. And like, I can't deal with that.
And it was a little bit more exacerbated during his role as Batman because he was trying to do the Batman voice on top of his already just fucking weird.
grumbly voice that he has.
Did I ever tell you that I had a dream? Okay, and it was a recreation of Brokeback Mountain, but Christian Bale was in it, and it was.
I could see him in it, though,
I don't understand why I have these fucking weird-ass dreams, but, dude.
So this would be my version. Let me rewrite the fucking script. Well, what a segue.
But Jake Gyllenhaal was still there.
Yeah. Did you ever see, I know we're going to just keep blabbing about movies, but did you ever see that movie Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal in it where he's like the photographer? I actually really like that movie. It was really so good. I thought it was really good.
He was so good. I know. I understand that there's a whole like thing about him, like people don't like him now because he did something to Taylor Swift, and I really don't fucking care. I could care less for Taylor Swift. And I'm always going to be on Jake Gyllenhaal's side.
Yeah. Now, I know that saying that we don't. Yeah, same. I mean, same. I don't really care about Taylor Swift. She's not a nice girl. She's a mean girl, and I'm not a fan. So, like, nah, I don't care if she had a bad relationship. Is that what it is? Like, who cares?
I guess so. It's like
nobody cares about. She don't care about my bad relationship, so I don't give a fuck about hers. How about that?
I mean. I could really care less.
I don't ever remember when we were in a band in high school. Do you ever remember writing one heartbreak song ever once?
No.
Same. That she ain't our type of girl, y'all.
Yeah. No. I think the closest we got was when we redid Like a Prayer. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
Maybe the closest we get to relationship anything. Maybe.
Yeah, is a Madonna song. If that's even like, yeah. Okay, well, we were talking about films, and I think it's a great segue to talk about or to tell them what we're covering tonight.
Absolutely. So tonight we are covering cursed films.
We are.
Cue the spooky music. That was horrible. I'm sorry. Anyways. Let me scroll back up to where I'm supposed to be. But yeah, cursed films, which this has been a really fun episode to write. So
yeah,
and I can't wait to hear about the ones that you have because I have not heard a damn thing about the ones that you put.
They were very interesting. So Amy's definitely going to start us off, but before she does, let's let Mima give y'all a warning.
Tonight's episode mentions murder, death, suicide, sexual abuse, and curses.
All right. So imagine, okay. So you're standing on a film set. The lights are up. The cameras are rolling. Somewhere nearby, a director is calling for quiet on the set. And you are surrounded by hundreds of people whose entire job is to make something extraordinary. It is, by most accounts, one of the most exciting places in the world to be. Now imagine that the leading actor's son dies by suicide before the cameras ever roll. Imagine that the plane carrying the star gets hit by lightning over the Atlantic. Then another plane, then another plane. At what point do you stop calling it a coincidence? That is the question at the center of today's episode. And it is a question that has never really been answered because some things do not resolve cleanly into yes or no. Here is what we know. The film industry has spent well over a century telling stories about darkness, about demons, about death and possession. and the things that wait for us on the other side, and what we can see and explain. And somewhere along the way, some of those films started collecting tragedies the way a lightning rod collects storms, fires that destroyed sets except for the one room at the center of the horror. Animals turned on their handlers the day after filming, a child actress who died of a misdiagnosed illness at 12 years old, a young man shot and killed by a bullet nobody knew was inside a gun 3 days before he was supposed to get married, a director who was so thoroughly dismantled his lead actress's mental health that she lost fistfuls of her own hair. You can explain most of these things individually. Large productions involve many people over long periods of time under dangerous conditions. The laws of probability guarantee that someone will get hurt, that someone will get sick, that something will go catastrophically wrong. Skeptics make their argument, and they make it well. But here is the thing about the stories in today's episode. They do not feel like statistics. They feel like something leaning over your shoulder in the dark, breathing just close enough that you know it's there, specific enough to make the hair on the back of your neck stand straight up. These films we will be covering have decades of documented tragedies between them, details too specific to dismiss, and too numerous to explain away with a shrug and probability chart. Some of these people who made these movies refused to ever watch them afterwards. Some of them brought in priests. One of the set required an exorcism, and more than a few of them ended their credits with dedications to the dead. We are going to go through it all. Every lightning bolt, every fire, every bullet, every body. And at the end, you are going to decide for yourself what it means. Just know this before we begin. The tagline from the first film we are going to discuss was a warning that ran in theaters and newspapers across the world. It read, "If something frightening happens to you today, think about it. It may be an omen." It was meant to sell tickets. Somehow it still feels like a warning. So, The Omen. Let's start with two films by their very nature invitations to trouble. One is about demonic possession, the other is about the Antichrist. If you were going to pick two films to test the theory that some projects summon something dark, these are the obvious candidates. Released on June 25th, 1976, The Omen was directed by Richard Donner and starred Gregory Peck as an American diplomat who adopts a child he comes to believe is the Antichrist. The film cast a modest $2.8 million to make and grossed approximately $60 million worldwide. It reversed the fortunes of a struggling 20th Century Fox and launched Donner into an A-list director tier. It also, by nearly all accounts, was one of the most incident-plagued productions in Hollywood history. Producer Harvey Bernard reportedly said of the production, "The devil was at work, and he didn't want that film made." Here's what happened. Before a single frame had been shot, the lead actor Gregory Peck's son shot and killed himself a few months before the production began. Peck boarded a plane to London to begin filming. That plane was struck by lightning. The engine caught fire. The aircraft came close to going down over the Atlantic Ocean. This was not the only lightning strike associated with production. Executive producer Mace Neufeld's plane was also struck by lightning crossing the Atlantic. Screenwriter's David Seltzer's plane was struck by lightning. And producer Harvey Bernard's narrowly avoided being struck by a bolt while on location in Rome.
Dude, I'm tripping because
one seems like
Okay,
fucking bizarre,
you just
right?
wait, because I have a movie on my list. The exact same thing. Multiple lightning strikes. I
fuck
swear to God.
up.
Completely different film. Guys, this episode's
You
going to be
guys,
so good. Oh my
I'm
God.
just I'm buying it. I'm
I
sorry.
have
Like, I
chills right now.
fucking think that
Yeah.
shit is can be haunted and cursed.
Yeah, sure. Energy's energy,
just,
I believe, and you can move enough
'cause
bad energy around.
lightning bolts are so sporadic and so random,
And
and it's just
rare.
and rare.
Just wait, dude. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I'm so excited. I literally have goosebumps when I was like, is she covering my movie? I was like, oh my God, this is wild. Okay. What a coinky dink.
I know. Bernhard's trip to Rome brought another near miss. The premiere of the film in that city coincided with lightning striking a 400-year-old cross on a 16th century church, an event which Ripley's Believe It or Not documented as historically rare in that location. But the planes kept coming. According to documented accounts reported by Collider, CBS News, and multiple other outlets, the production crew had chartered a small aircraft for aerial filming. At the last moment, the booking was canceled. The same plane was rented by another group, which boarded and took off. That plane crashed immediately after takeoff, killing everyone on board. The plane also came down on a car on a road below, killing the pilot's wife and 2 children who happened to be in the vehicle. While
Wow.
filming in London, the IRA, which is the Irish Republican Army, was conducting a sustained bombing campaign across the city. Producer Mace Neufeld was staying at a Hilton hotel when the IRA bombed the building. He and his wife were not in the hotel at the time. Several days later, Neufeld and other producers and Gregory Peck were en route to a restaurant when the IRA bombed that building too. They were not yet inside. The animal scenes at Windsor Wild Safari Park produced their own horror. The baboon sequence, in which Lee Remick's character is terrorized by baboons reacting to Damien's presence, was filmed with the animals behaving with a ferocity that reportedly alarmed everyone present. According to the producer Harvey Bernhard, the animal handler who worked with those baboons was killed the following day when a tiger grabbed him by the head and killed him instantly. The Rottweilers used in the cemetery chase scene became so vicious during filming that they injured their own trained handlers, biting through the protective gear. Then there's the death that gave The Omen the curse its darkest chapter. John Richardson, the film's special effects designer and the man responsible for the decapitation scene in which a character is killed by a sliding sheet of glass from a construction vehicle, left the production and began work on a film called A Bridge Too Far in the Netherlands. On August 13th, 1976, which was a Friday, Richardson and his colleague Liz Moore were involved in a head-on car collision. Richardson was knocked unconscious. Moore was decapitated when one of the car's front wheels tore through the floor of the vehicle. As Richardson regained consciousness, he reportedly saw a road sign nearby. It read, Omen, and that was OMM 6 kilometers. Fox studio executives, learning the mounting incidents during production, responded to all of this in a very Hollywood way. They used it as a marketing campaign. The tagline on the film's ads read, You have been warned. If something frightening happens to you today, think it might be The Omen. So the next film I'm going to talk about is The Exorcist. Released on December 26, 1973, Exorcist was directed by William Friedkin and based on William Peter Blady's novel about the demonic possession of a 12-year-old girl and the attempt by 2 Catholic priests to save her. It was the first horror film to receive an Academy Award nomination for Best Picture. Its lifetime box office gross reached approximately $441 million. It is widely considered one of the greatest horror films ever made. According to Wikipedia's documented account of the production, it was originally scheduled for 85 days of principal photography. It took over 200 days to complete. Production cost nearly 3 times the initial budget. Many cast and crew were injured. Some died. Unusual accidents delayed shooting at every turn. The first major incident occurred around 2:30 in the morning when a fire broke out on the set and a bird had flown into a circuit box. The entire set burned to the ground. The only room that survived the fire was Regan's bedroom, the room where the exorcism takes place. The production was shut down for 6 weeks while the set was rebuilt from scratch. Then the new set's sprinkler system malfunctioned, causing a further delay of 2 more weeks. Injuries to the cast were relentless. Ellen Burstyn, played Regan's mother, was injured when a wire harness pulled her too hard during the scene in which Regan knocks her to the floor. Burstyn told the Huffington Post that she warned the director that she was being pulled too hard and asked him to have the wire operator ease up. She believes that they probably canceled that instruction and the harness pulled with full force, slamming her into the floor, causing permanent spinal injury. Burstyn's scream in that take is in the final film. It was the scream of someone in genuine, serious pain. Linda Blair, then 12 years old, fractured her lower back while thrashing in the harness during the exorcism sequences. She later described screaming, "Please make it stop. It hurts. It burns." And the crew not stopping the scene because the words matched the script. The injury left her with scoliosis and chronic pain for years. A crew member lost a toe, a carpenter cut off his thumb. Then there are the deaths. Actor Jack McGowan, who played Burke Dennings, the film director killed by the demon, died 1 week after filming his final scenes. He was 54 years old and died of flu complications at the Algonquin Hotel in New York City. His character was also killed in the film. Actress Vasiliki Milagros, I probably butchered that, who played Father Kara's mother, also died before the film was released.
Why you do this to me, Demi? That's her line. That's her
That's
line.
her.
Yep.
Yeah. So her character also died in the film. Ellen Burstyn later stated in the documentary The Fear of God, 25 Years of The Exorcist, that 9 people associated with the production died in connection with the film. Max von Sydow, playing Father Merrin, arrived in New York for his first day of shooting and learned that his brother had died unexpectedly in Sweden. He left to attend the funeral. Linda Blair's grandmother died during production. Jason Miller playing Father Karras found his young son Jordan struck down on a deserted beach by a motorcyclist who appeared out of nowhere, and the boy nearly died. Paul Bateson, who played a hospital technician in a brief scene, later murdered journalist Addison Verrill, which he was convicted and sentenced to 24 years. He was released in 2003. Evangelist Billy Graham publicly stated that each reel of the film literally contained evil within it. During one premiere in Rome, a church near the screening location was struck by lightning. The production's reaction to the mounting incidents was to bring in Father Thomas Berringham, a Catholic priest who had served as technical advisor on the film, and he declined to perform a formal exorcism but did conduct a solemn blessing ceremony attended by the entire cast and crew. The production continued. Upon release, the film created audience reactions that had not been seen in modern cinema. Theaters reported people fainting in their seats, vomiting, being removed on stretchers. Reports of nightmares spread through cities where the film ran. One woman fainted and broke her jaw and subsequently sued Warner Brothers, claiming the film contained subliminal messages that caused her to lose consciousness. Whether or not you believe any of this was supernatural, the documented record of The Exorcist is this: over 200 days of production, 9 deaths associated with its production, injuries including permanent spinal injury to the lead actress and a back fracture to the child actress, a fire that destroyed the set except for the one room at the center of the whole movie. And audience reaction was so extreme, they were covered by medical journals. Max von Sydow, for what it's worth, dismissed the curse entirely. If you shoot something for a year, he says in a documentary, people are going to get hurt. People are going to die. That is the rational position. It also is worth noting that Max von Sydow was 85 years old when he died in 2020, which means at least one person connected to The Exorcist made it out fine. Now Rox is going to tell us about a few others that I'm personally very surprised are on this list. So take it away.
Thanks, Amy. So I'm going to pivot us out of horror for a bit and chat about 2 cursed films. One flies as high as the sun, and the other has never seen the light of day. Superman and Attic. We all know the line. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. The character is over 85 years old and has been the title role in over a dozen films, dating back to 1948. But the 1978 film is often credited as the Big Bang of the modern superhero film, as superheroes were only seen on serials or used by B-film studios up until that point. Superman, directed by Richard Donner, same guy that directed The Omen, And starring Christopher Reeve as Clark Kent Superman, not only proved that superheroes could take up the biggest screens, but that the public was ready for them. It was a commercial and critical success and spawned 3 sequels and a full-length Supergirl film. The legacy it left the industry is apparent in the films of today, especially in the DC or Marvel universe. But it left a darker and deeper legacy on its creators. And to understand the full scope of the curse, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. The story of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster is a heartbreaking tale of 2 high school friends from Cleveland who changed global culture forever only to be discarded by the machine they built. In 1938, desperate to see their character in print after years of rejections, Siegel and Shuster signed a contract with Detective Comics. In exchange for publishing Action Comics #1, they signed over all rights to the character for a check of $130. With that single signature, they unwittingly gave away a multi-billion-dollar empire before it even began. While Superman became a global phenomenon during World War II, Siegel and Shuster were kept on as work-for-hire employees. They were paid a page rate to draw and write their own creation, but they saw 0% of the merchandising, radio, or film profits. By the mid-1940s, Superman was generating millions, and when Siegel and Shuster sued for a share of the profits in 1947, DC simply fired them and stripped their names from the comics. They spent the rest of their lives in poverty and legal battles with DC Comics. Shuster eventually went blind and couldn't draw, while Siegel was fired in the 60s. Many believe the curse began with their bitterness. So, I mentioned before that the 1978 film starred Christopher Reeve. He played Superman in all 3 sequels as well, but in 1995 he had a terrible horse accident, rendering him paralyzed and bound to a wheelchair for the remainder of his life. In 2004, while being treated for a pressure ulcer, Reeve had a reaction to a drug and passed away. Margot Kidder, who played Lois Lane, also had a string of mishaps following the film. In 1990, while filming the pilot of a proposed television series, Kidder was in a car crash that injured her spine and left her partially paralyzed. In 1996, she experienced a manic episode in Los Angeles and disappeared for 4 days. She was later found by a homeowner in the backyard of a Glendale residence and was taken by the Los Angeles Police Department to Olive View UCLA Medical Center in a distressed state, the caps on her teeth having been knocked out during a rape attempt. She was subsequently placed in psychiatric care. Kidder died in 2018. Her death was ruled suicide by a self-inflicted drug and alcohol overdose. And yet another from the 1978 film. Lee Quigley, who played the infant Superman, died at age 14 of inhalant abuse. But the curse wasn't born from these tragedies alone. There have been a number of others that had sordid careers or personal lives following the filming of the Superman films. Marlon Brando, Gene Hackman, Richard Pryor, Dana Reeve, and Allison Mack are some of the more noted, plus the entire crew of Superman Returns had reports of people falling downstairs through glass windows and getting mugged. Of course, the darker of the stories comes from the television Superman, George Reeves. Reeves played the icon in Adventures of Superman. He was typecast for his role and had difficulties landing anything else, which led him to alcohol abuse. Just a few days before he was set to be married, he was found dead in his bedroom upstairs while a party loomed below. The police investigated and ruled it a suicide due to his flailing career. Although his fingerprints were not found on the gun, there was no gunshot residue on his hand, and he was having an affair with Toni Mannix, wife of a fixer for the MGM studios. So, whether it's a supernatural hex or just the statistical reality of a 90-year-old franchise, the Legend of Superman curse remains an atypical part of Hollywood history. And if the Superman curse is about the cape, the Attic curse is about the script. Attic is an unmade film based on the satirical novel The Incomparable Attic. The plot follows an Inuit hunter who moves to New York City and becomes corrupted by big city greed. It sounds like a standard fish-out-of-water comedy, but in Hollywood, it is considered the most toxic screenplay in existence. Here's the body count that built the legend. John Belushi was the first actor to show serious interest in playing Attic. He read the script at the beginning of 1982 and was reportedly very excited about it. Just months later, he died of a drug overdose at the Chateau Marmont. In 1988, the project actually started production with the loudmouth comedian Sam Kinison. However, after only 8 days of filming, Kinison reportedly grew difficult and demanded script rewrites, leading to the production being shut down and a massive lawsuit from the studio. In 1992, he was reportedly reconsidering the role, but he was killed in a head-on car collision with a drunk driver. John Candy was the next major star approached for the lead. He was reportedly evaluating the script when he died of a sudden heart attack in his sleep at age 43. 1994, Michael O'Donoghue was a writer for Saturday Night Live and a close friend of Belushi and Candy. He had reportedly read the script with both of them and was a big supporter of the project. He died of a cerebral hemorrhage just months after John Candy. 97, Chris Farley was the final major star attached. Much like his idol Belushi, he was on the verge of accepting the role when he died of an overdose at age 33.
What
The
the
legend
fuck?
also... Oh, dude, I know. Isn't this trippy? The
What
legend
the
also...
hell?
I know. Wild, right?
Oh my God.
I know. Okay. So the legend also claims that Farley had shown the script to his friend Phil Hartman, encouraging him to take a supporting role. Hartman was tragically murdered by his wife in their home 5 months after Farley's death. Every few years, a name like Jack Black or Will Ferrell is linked to it, but nothing ever moves forward. Hollywood is superstitious, and after 6 deaths associated with one 100-page stack of papers, most producers treat it like radioactive material. Now, we're going to break for an ad, but when we return, Amy's going to cover the most surreal films on the list.
Hey listeners, if you live in Colorado and haven't added functional fungi to your wellness routine, you might be missing that key ingredient.
That's right. Studies show that mushrooms can have a variety of benefits, and the folks over at Activated Brands have done the science for us.
Located in Arvada, Colorado, Activated uses the latest in extraction technology to create high-quality mushroom products like gummies and elixirs.
So you get the benefit in convenient and tasty ways, like sour melon or strawberry horchata gummies, and the apple mint elixir.
And not just products, Activated Brands host workshops, offer a community workspace to local growers, and have all the supplies, information, and advice available if you want to grow for yourself.
And that's why you can trust a company like Activated Brands. They are always willing to share their expertise. But don't take our word for it. Go see for yourself. The lab is open.
For more information like hours and location, or to order products, you can visit activatedbrands.com or check them out on Instagram.
Now back to the show. Isn't that wild?
Dude, that's fucking insane.
So-
Oh my God.
So the role is like a heavy set guy. So, you could say, well, of course, like the role is for a heavy set guy, and these heavy set guys are more
And they're
prone to
all-
maybe having a, having a heart attack or something. But like, that's a lot of deaths. A lot.
That's insane.
Mhm.
My God.
That tech ended up being very interesting after getting into. I was like, why is this one cursed? Well, we've found out.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if someone like wants to try and fuck with that? Like, oh, there's going to be, dude, that
No.
sounds like something A24 would do.
No, I know, probably if they could get it. So last I heard, the last studio that had copies of the script, they literally secure locked it up in the vault and nobody is allowed to touch it. Like they're like that superstitious where it's like guarded now. You cannot go
my
near that
God.
script. Crazy, right?
That is crazy. My gosh.
I'm not sure which
Okay.
studio has possession of the actual script, but one of
Yeah.
the main ones does. So
Oh my gosh. Okay, so these two films could not be more different on the surface. One is a beloved family musical from 1939. The other is a 1983 anthology film based on Rod Serling's science fiction series. What these share is a behind-the-scenes record of injury, near death, and in the case of Twilight Zone, the movie, an accident so catastrophic that it changed federal regulations governing film production and ended up in a criminal court. Twilight Zone, the movie, a 1983 film, featured 4 separate segments directed by John Landis, Steven Spielberg, Joe Dante, and George Miller, each adapting a different episode from Rod Serling's original television series. The film was released on June 24th, 1983, and received mixed reviews, but the film's production history is not remembered for the reviews. At approximately 2:20 in the morning on July 23rd, 1982, at the Indian Dunes location in Valencia, California, Vic Morrow was standing in a shallow river with 2 child actors, 7-year-old Micah Den Lee and 6-year-old Renee Shin Yi Chen. They were filming the final revised scene of director John Landis' segment, Time Out. Morrow's character, a bigot transported back through time to Vietnam, was to carry these 2 children across the river. Okay. So he was to carry the 2 children across the river as an American military helicopter pursued them through explosions. The helicopter was hovering approximately 25 feet above the actors. Pyrotechnic effects were detonated. The blast hit the tail rotor of the helicopter. The tail rotor failed, detached. The helicopter spun out of control and fell. Morrow dropped Renee Shin Yi Chen into the water as the aircraft came down. He was reaching for her when the helicopter landed on top of all 3 of them. Renee was crushed to death by the right landing skid. Vic Morrow and Micah Den Lee were both decapitated by the main rotor blades. All 3 died instantly. Both child actors had been hired illegally. California law prohibited child actors from working at night or in proximity to explosions and required the presence of a teacher or a social worker. Neither child had the required permits. Their families later testified that they had been told there would be no danger, only noise, and that neither helicopters nor explosions had been mentioned to them. Micah's father, who had survived the Vietnam War, told the court that when the explosions began on the Vietnamese village set, it triggered his memories of combat, and he was horrified. According to a camera operator on board the helicopter, as the explosions went off, Landis was on the radio ordering the helicopter to fly lower. The pilot attempted to leave the area but lost control. Director John Landis, the helicopter pilot, the production manager, and the explosive specialist, and the associate producer were all charged with involuntary manslaughter in what the History Channel documented as the first time a film director had faced criminal charges for events that occurred while making a movie. The trial lasted nearly a year. In 1987, all 5 defendants were acquitted. The jury found that the prosecution had not proven the accident was foreseeable. The accident led to significant changes in how aircrafts can be used to film movies. Since 1986, any film production seeking to use low-flying helicopters must receive specific waivers from the Federal Aviation Administration. Steven Spielberg, who directed another segment of the film, made a public statement about the tragedy. No movie is worth dying for. I think people are standing up much more now than ever before to producers and directors who ask too much. If something isn't safe, it's the right and responsibility of every actor or crew member to yell, cut. Vic Morrow was 53 years old. He was the father of actress Jennifer Jason Leigh. He reportedly said just before the scene was filmed, "I must be out of my mind to be doing this. I should have asked for a stunt double. What can they do but kill me, right?" So the next movie is The Wizard of Oz. And The Wizard of Oz is one of the most beloved films in history, a beloved family musical about hope, home, and friendship. It is also behind the scenes a document of astonishing sustained suffering. Released in 1939, the film was directed by Victor Fleming and starred Judy Garland as Dorothy Gale, a Kansas teenager swept away to the magical land of Oz. The film's production ran from October 19 to March 1939. Buddy Ebsen was originally cast as the Tin Man. 9 days into the shoot, he was rushed to the hospital. The Tin Man makeup contained aluminum powder, and Ebsen had been inhaling it during the shooting days. His lungs became coated with aluminum. He went into anaphylactic shock. He was placed in an oxygen tent and remained there for 2 weeks. According to the South Florida Sun Sentinel, he was, in his own words, screaming from violent cramping in his arms, hands, and legs. The studio called his house while he was in the hospital to order him back to the set. He was not in condition to return. He was replaced by Jack Haley, who was given an aluminum paste instead of aluminum powder. Fuck. Haley then developed serious eye infection from the paste. Buddy Ebsen suffered from lung problems related to the aluminum poisoning for the rest of his life. He never spoke publicly about what happened to him on the set for decades. Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch of the West, was severely burned during special effects, in which her character vanishes in a puff of flames. The effect went wrong. Hamilton sustained second and third degree burns on her hands and face. She was hospitalized and missed 6 weeks of filming. Hamilton's copper-based green makeup was itself a health hazard, and it reportedly tinted her skin green for months after production wrapped. When Hamilton returned to the set, she refused to film any scene involving fire. Her stunt double, Betty Danko, was given the scenes instead. During one sequence, Danko was riding a mechanical broom fitted with a pipe, designed to release smoke from the back. The pipe exploded. Danko was thrown in one direction, the hat went in another, broom went in another, and Danko was hospitalized for 11 days and permanently scarred. Ray Bolger, who played the Scarecrow, wore rubber prosthetic makeup that left burlap scarring on his face for nearly a year after production wrapped. 2 stunt doubles playing the flying monkeys were dropped from their wire rings when the wires broke. Both were injured in the fall. Judy Garland, 16 years old during production, was subjected to what historians have since described as deeply troubling treatment by the studio. She was placed on a diet of chicken soup, black coffee, and cigarettes to maintain the weight producers demanded. She was given stimulants to keep her working through punishing schedule and then giving sedatives to help her sleep between sessions. This treatment, which was common practice at MGM at the time, contributed to the addiction issues that followed Garland for the rest of her life, and many believe contributed to her death at age 47 in 1969. About to sneeze again. Okay. The dog who played Toto was injured when a crew member accidentally stepped on him. Motherfuckers.
Poor
Anyways.
Toto.
I know. Film historians John Frick, in an interview with People magazine, put the broader record plainly. Special effects were in their infancy, and many of the injuries were sad parts of the learning process. That is the generous framing for a production in which the original lead actor was nearly killed by his own makeup. The villain was severely burned on camera, her stunt double was exploded off a broomstick, and a teenage star was being chemically managed into a lifelong addiction. Now, Rox is going to tell us about a few more cursed films.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. So my next couple of flicks were conceptualized from the same book, the Bible. Rosemary's Baby, directed by Roman Polanski from 1968, tells the story of a young woman played by Mia Farrow, where after a string of events, she becomes impregnated by the seed of Satan. The other film, The Passion of the Christ, was released in 2004 and was directed by Mel Gibson. Jim Caviezel played the role of Jesus, and the film was centered on the crucifixion story. Both would torment the players during and after the film's wrapped. Rosemary's Baby, as I had said, was directed by Roman Polanski. If you are aware, in 1969, and 1 year after the release of Rosemary's Baby, the Manson family broke into Polanski's home while he was away in Europe and murdered his pregnant wife, Sharon Tate. If you listen to our Real Monsters of Hollywood, then you most likely caught a list of Roman Polanski's crimes. But as a reminder, in 1977, he was charged with drugging and raping a 13-year-old girl. He fled to Paris and has not returned to America since. Mia Farrow, who played the lead Rosemary, was served divorce papers from Frank Sinatra while on set of the film, beginning a long history of men betraying her trust. Andre Previn, who began the relationship out of an affair. Woody Allen, who, once again referencing back to Real Monsters of Hollywood, molested his stepdaughter and married one of Mia's adopted children. which he had been grooming for years. Mia has also lost 3 of her children in tragic ways, one of suicide, one of an overdose, and another of HIV. Many people claim that Rosemary's Baby curse having followed her throughout her life. The curse also seemed to follow the producer, William Castle. Following the film's release, Castle was bombarded with hate mail from people claiming he had unleashed evil upon the world. Shortly after, he suffered from a severe, debilitating case of kidney stones that landed him in the hospital. While delirious and in extreme pain, he reportedly screamed, "Rosemary, for God's sake, put down that knife." He never had another major hit and died of a heart attack a few years later. And the composer, Christoph Komeda, a year after rapping, suffered a freak fall at a party that caused a blood clot and a coma. In a bizarre twist in the film, Rosemary's friend Hutch falls into a mysterious coma and dies after a blood clot in the brain. So Komeda essentially died exactly like the character in the story he had just scored. And finally, the set itself. The film was shot at the Dakota in New York City, and John Lennon, who lived in the Dakota, was assassinated right outside the building's entrance. Some conspiracy theorists even point out that Polanski and Lennon were acquaintances, further intertwining the building's dark history with the film. Now, swinging the pendulum, we land on The Passion of the Christ. While this film wasn't about demons or cults, the sheer amount of physical trauma that occurred on set led many to believe the production was under some kind of spiritual or elemental attack. First, it was the multiple lightning strikes. The assistant director, Jan Michelini, was struck twice while filming. And while shooting the Sermon on the Mount,
I think so.
Caviezel, who played Jesus, was also struck by lightning. One of the storms being the same as the one that got Jan. Witnesses said his whole body lit up and fire was coming out of his ears. And the odds of 2 people getting struck by lightning on the same production are astronomically low. But the strike wouldn't be the only physical stress Caviezel would endure. A 14-inch gash was torn into his back after receiving a lash with a whip. Filming in the dead of winter wearing almost nothing caused him to develop severe pneumonia and a lung infection. While carrying the 150-pound wooden cross, his shoulder was dislocated when the cross fell on him. The grueling makeup process caused him to develop painful skin blisters and chronic migraines. Despite the movie being a massive box office hit, Jim Caviezel claimed that his Hollywood career was effectively sabotaged because of the role. He went from a rising A-list star to being largely avoided by major studios for years. Shortly after the film's release, Gibson entered a period of intense public controversy issues and professional exile that lasted for over a decade. So whether you view it as divine intervention or demonic interference, or just a result of filming a high-stress movie in brutal conditions, the set of The Passion of the Christ was objectively dangerous. It's one of the few movies where the curse involves the actors actually bleeding for the craft. Now let's take a quick break, and when we return, Amy is going to spill the tea on some more cursed films. Okay.
Dude, I know Mel Gibson really went off the deep end. Like, he was
He did.
he was the shit when we were little. He was,
Sure.
and wasn't, what was that guy from Home Improvement show? Do you remember the dad?
Yeah, Tim Allen.
Tim Allen. Didn't he also fucking go off the deep
Yeah,
end
like
too?
he got busted with a bunch of cocaine and hookers and stuff. I think, you know.
Hasn't.
Yeah, right, right. But really,
Oh my gosh. But I think like Mel Gibson went on some like crazy racist shit,
he
right?
did. Yeah, and he was like, I think there was a video of him like going off about like Jewish people. It was like really anti-Semitic, and then yeah, it's just he's a racist piece of shit. Like he just is now. Everyone just knows it. It's like he's a drunk and he's a racist.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So he's kind of like John Wayne. I mean, what?
My gosh. Yeah. No, they're the shit these men get away with, I tell you.
It's
Okay.
ridiculous. And the fact that they're so put up on such a pedestal of like they're such good guys. No, they're fucking not. Like they're racist, they're bigots, they're drunks, they beat their women, they're pieces of shit. Like fuck off.
Yeah. I know. All right. So Now we move into two superhero adjacent films, two productions that attracted darkness, two films that dedicated their closing credits to the dead. The first is The Crow. Released on May 10th, 1994, The Crow was directed by Alex Proyas and starred Brandon Lee as Eric Draven, a rock musician murdered alongside his fiancée, who was resurrected by a supernatural crow to seek revenge. The film was based on James O. Barr's 1989 comic book, which O. Barr had written as a way of processing his grief after his own fiancée was killed by a drunk driver. It is one of the most significant cult films from the 90s and a landmark of Gothic visual style. Brandon Lee was the son of Bruce Lee, the legendary martial artist and actor who had died under circumstances still debated by his family in 1973 at age 32, while Brandon was 8 years old. Brandon was 28 years old when filming The Crow, and it was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina. He was engaged to be married to Eliza Hutt. They planned to wed in Ensenada, Mexico on April 17, 1993, 1 week after production scheduled to wrap. Production began in 1993. Before it did, the pre-production offices reportedly received an anonymous voicemail asking them to not proceed with the film because bad things would happen. This is documented in the book The Crow, the story behind the film by Bridget Bice. On the first day of shooting, live electrical wire caught fire and burned a crew member, giving him second and third degree burns. On the third night of production, a prop chuck caught fire. The cause of the combustion was never identified. The film's publicist was in a car accident. A sculptor drove his truck into the set. A crew member slipped and drove a screwdriver through his hand, and part of the set was destroyed in a storm. And then, on March 31st, 1993, Lee was shot and killed.
Oh, but this is such a sad story.
It is, dude. It was so fucked when it happened. Like, could not believe it. And, like, can
Yeah.
you just imagine the other films that he would have been
Oh my
perfect
god,
for?
dude. I love The Crow. Like, it's one of my favorites, like, of all time. You know what I mean? It's such a
The
good movie.
cinematography, the feel of it, it's just
It's such a
perfection.
It is. It's dark, but it's so pretty. Like, it's
It
such a
is.
beautiful movie. Like,
Yeah.
it just is. It's a really good one, man. Like, I
Yeah.
really I enjoy that movie a lot. And I always get, yeah, there's like a sadness because you know that, like, died in this movie. Like, it just brings a little bit more to it to me, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the circumstances of Lee's death are both specific and horrible. For a scene in which Lee's character is shot by another character, the prop department had prepared a gun that previously been used to film extreme close-ups of the revolver loaded with what appeared to be real bullets. For those close-up shots, the real bullets had been fitted with their gunpowder removed, making them visually realistic, but theoretically inert. Bullet tip, however, had become lodged inside the barrel of the gun. No one noticed. Later, the same gun was loaded with blanks, which contained gunpowder, but no projectile. For the actual shooting sequence, when the blank was fired, the gunpowder propelled the lodged bullet tip out of the barrel at full force. The shot struck Brandon Lee in the abdomen and stopped against his spine. He was taken to a hospital where the surgeons operated for more than 6 hours. He died of blood loss, internal injuries, and heart failure on March 31st, 1993. He was 28 years old and had 3 days of filming left. Michael Massey, the actor who fired the gun, was so devastated that he took years away from film entirely. In 2005 interview with Extra, he said, "I don't think you ever get over something like that." Director Alex Proyas has, since the film's release, refused to watch it. When discussions began about reboot, Proyas publicly stated that proceeding would disrespect Lee's legacy. Multiple attempted remakes have since been stalled in development. Some who work in the industry quietly cite the reputation of the project as one reason for the difficulty. The Crow was completed using stunt doubles Chad Stileski and Jeff Cadiente standing in for Lee with early digital effects used to composite Lee's face onto their performances. It is considered a pioneering use of technology. At the end of the film, the dedication reads, Brandon Lee, the sky is crying. The next film I'm going to be talking about is called The Dark Knight. Released on July 18, 2008, The Dark Knight was directed by Chris Nolan and is widely considered one of the greatest superhero films ever made. It starred Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne and Batman, and Heath Ledger as the Joker, a performance that became one of the most discussed acting achievements in modern cinema. Heath Ledger had completed filming his Joker scenes in late 2007. To prepare for the role, he spent a month alone in a London hotel room, developing the character's voice, posture, and psychology. He kept a journal in which he wrote from the Joker's perspective. The journal included notes, photographs of hyenas, stills from A Clockwork Orange, and a list of the things Joker found funny. On the last page, written in large letters, the words "bye-bye" were there. So Ledger had spoken openly about struggling to sleep during this production. He told the New York Times that he viewed the Joker as a psychopathic, mass-murdering, schizophrenic clown with zero empathy. On January 22nd, 2008, Heath Ledger was found dead in his Manhattan apartment. He was 28 years old. The New York City Medical Examiner ruled the cause of death an accidental overdose of prescription medications, a combination of drugs that included painkillers, anti-anxiety medications, and sleep aids. The film's closing credits contain a dedication in memory of our friends Heath Ledger and Conway Wycliffe. Conway Wycliffe was a New Zealand-born special effects technician working on The Dark Knight. According to the coroner's inquest reported by the BBC, Wycliffe was on a camera truck being used to film a test run for a scene involving the Batmobile. The truck failed to make a required turn and struck a tree. Wycliffe, who was leaning out of the vehicle operating a camera, was killed at the scene. The inquest ruled his death an accident. The period surrounding the film's release brought two further events involving principal cast members. Morgan Freeman, who played Lucius Fox, was seriously injured in August 2008 when his car left the road near his Mississippi home, flipped multiple times before landing in a ditch. Freeman survived. Christian Bale was arrested in July of 2008 as well on allegations of assault, an arrest that occurred days before the film's premiere and from which he was released without charges. Jack Nicholson, who had played the Joker in the 1989 Batman, had reportedly warned Ledger about this role. Told journalists after Ledger's death, "Well, I warned him." Nicholson has not elaborated on what precisely the warning contained. Christopher Nolan dedicated the film to Ledger's memory and to Wycliffe's. He made no digital alterations to Ledger's performance, and the film was released as Heath Ledger had left it. It went on to gross over $1 billion worldwide and won Ledger a posthumous Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. So yeah, that was so freaking sad.
Yeah. So, and then The Dark Knight was also the film that the shooting happened in.
Really?
The Aurora Theater shooting?
That is right. That fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh my gosh. I
So you
completely
want to know
forgot about
something
that.
crazy? I was in
Yeah.
Aurora that night when that happened. I was working in Aurora with a client at their home.
My
Yeah.
gosh.
My dad called me because he was like, he freaked out. He was like, "Are you at the movies?" I was like, "No, I'm at work. What do you mean? Like, I'm not at
Yeah.
movies." He's like, "There was a crazy shooting." And like, it was right around, like, it's within a mile of that lady's house that I was in.
Yeah. I can't remember what that guy's motive was or anything, but no, I completely forgot to put that in. That's
The Aurora Theater
crazy.
shooting. While, the mass shooters will have their day on our podcast for sure. And I'm sure we
Yeah.
will go into that in detail for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah. So anyways, these next two films, they represent the two different flavors of a Hollywood curse. Apocalypse Now is about a production so chaotic, it felt like the universe was trying to stop it, while Rebel Without a Cause is about a tragic afterlife where the cast met grim, untimely ends. When asked about the production of Apocalypse Now, director Francis Ford Coppola famously said, "My movie is not about Vietnam, it is Vietnam." He wasn't kidding. The curse here was the sheer scale of disasters that occurred during the 238 days of filming in the Philippines. Martin Sheen was only 36 when he suffered a massive heart attack and a nervous breakdown on set. He had to crawl a quarter-mile down a road to find help and was even given his last rites by a priest who didn't speak English. Typhoon Olga tore through the set. Typhoon Olga tore through the set, destroying nearly all the expensive sets and forcing production to shut down for months. Coppola rented helicopters from the Philippine government. Because the government was fighting a real civil war nearby, the helicopters would often be called away mid-shot to go actually fight rebels. Marlon Brando showed up 88 pounds overweight, hadn't read the script, and hadn't read the book Heart of Darkness. Coppola had to shut down production just to sit with Brando and figure out how to film him in the shadows to hide his size. And of course, the production designer accidentally bought real human cadavers from a grave robber to use as props for the dead body scenes. The police had to get involved to clear the set. Also, side note, this isn't the only cursed film that Marlon Brando is tied to. And after all of my research about Brando, I want to say on record that he is a curse unto himself. Okay, moving on. Unlike Apocalypse Now, the filming of Rebel Without a Cause was relatively smooth. The curse refers to the fact that all three of its legendary young leads died young, violently, and under tragic circumstances. James Dean, who played Jim, the face of the film, died in a horrific car crash in his Porsche Little Bastard just 1 month before the movie was released. He was only 24. Eerily, actor Allen Guinness had told him a week prior, "If you get in that car, you will be found dead in it by this time next week." Sal Mineo, cast as Plato, was stabbed to death in a West Hollywood alleyway by a mugger. And Natalie Wood, who played Judy, died in 1981 by drowning during a weekend boat trip to Catalina Island with her husband Robert Wagner and co-star Christopher Walken. To this day, the circumstances of her death are considered suspicious and remain one of Hollywood's biggest unsolved mysteries. Nick Adams, who played Chick, died of a mysterious drug overdose at 36. And Edward Platt, the police inspector, died by suicide. Rebel Without a Cause is a curse of legacy, a film about doomed youth that unfortunately saw its stars live out that very theme. And there is nothing that dooms the youth more than ads, so let's have one.
What's up, buddy? Why do you seem bummed?
Honestly, I've been really wanting a new shirt lately, or a coffee mug. Just a little something to treat myself.
And why can't you?
I've searched everywhere. The shirts online are low-quality polyester blends, and I hate supporting the man.
Okay, but what about the mugs? What's the issue with those?
Oh, the mugs. Even if I manage to find a mug that doesn't have a number one whoever or live, laugh, love on it, they cost a fortune.
You're right. Mug money is hard to come by in this economy, but you deserve to treat yourself, and I have news that may cheer you up.
Oh, really?
If you head over to thisjustin and itsgrim.com, they have shirts and mugs just like you want.
Are the shirts 100% cotton, not some cheap poly blend?
That's right, and they come in a wide range of sizes. And before you ask, the mugs don't have an inspirational quote.
That sounds too good to be true. It must cost a fortune, or be backed by some kind of corpo scum.
Nope, the prices are steal, and it's run by two best friends. No corpo scum anywhere near the product.
Well, Amy, it looks like I will be able to treat myself after all. This just in, and it's grim.com, right?
Yep, and while you're there, sign up for email. You'll get up-to-date information on episodes and the show, of course. Info on merch as well.
Thanks, dude. I'm heading there now, and if the prices are as low as you say, I'll treat you too.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
My gosh, that's nuts.
Yeah. Yep.
The hell?
Fucking.
What's with them and using real bodies? What the fuck?
I know, they do
What
it.
the fuck? Whose
They
idea
do
is
it.
this?
They do it. It's cheaper than getting them made. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. They use them like crazy.
I mean, I would personally be like thrilled if my body was used in a fucking movie.
Same.
Like, honestly,
Say, put me in that
would be
movie,
badass.
motherfuckers.
Oh my
Put my
God.
dead body in a horror movie, please.
That would be badass. Oh my
Hell
gosh.
yeah.
Like, what if it was like scene in like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like open up like a,
Yes.
a freezer, and we're
And you
just in there
fall out.
like
I love
we're just in
it.
there clutching each
Come
other,
on,
just
someone, anyone who's still working in horror. Let's see. I don't know. I'm like, all the people who used to work in horror, we're making documentaries now. So I'm like, what? I don't know.
All right. So we end where many people say the conversation about cursed films should begin, with a horror franchise that lost 4 cast members across 3 films, used real human skeletons as props, and had an exorcism conducted on the sequel set, and with a film whose director methodically dismantled his lead actress's mental health to achieve the performance he wanted, The Poltergeist. Released in 1982, The Poltergeist was directed by Tobe Hooper and produced by Steven Spielberg. It follows the Freeling family, a middle-class California household whose home is infiltrated by the malevolent spirits that abduct their youngest daughter, Carol Ann. Through the family's television set, it is one of the highest-grossing films of 1982 and considered a masterpiece of American horror. It is also the film in which the production used real human skeletons. For the film's cinematic pool scene, in which actress JoBeth Williams, playing Mother Diane Freeling, falls into an unfinished swimming pool filled with mud and cadavers. The production needed skeletons. Real human skeletons at the time were cheaper to acquire than high-quality plastic replicas. The production obtained used them. Williams discovered this fact after she already did the scene, by the way. So she told the documentary series Cursed Films, "I don't know where they bought them from, but that really grossed me out. I'm glad I didn't know then, because I would have really been screaming for real." The Poltergeist 2 continued using real skeletons in production. Actor Will Sampson, who played Taylor the Shaman, reportedly sensed a malevolent presence on the set of the sequel, attributed it to the use of real human remains, and asked permission to conduct an exorcism. He was given permission. According to Craig T. Nelson, who played Patriarch Steve Freeling, Sampson conducted the ceremony alone in the middle of the night. Nelson stated that the production experienced no further setbacks after the exorcism was performed. Now, the deaths. Dominique Dune played the Freeling family's eldest daughter, Dana. She was 22 years old. On Halloween night, 1982, approximately 5 months after Poltergeist was released, her former partner John Thomas Sweeney arrived at her home demanding she take him back. When she refused, Sweeney strangled her in the driveway until she lost consciousness. Police arrived and arrested him. Dune was taken to the hospital and placed on life support. She never regained consciousness. She died 5 days later. Sweeney was convicted of voluntary manslaughter and sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. He served 3 years and 7 months.
That's
What the
infuriating.
fuck?
No, I remember
What
hearing
the
that he like
fuck?
barely. I was wondering if you were going to mention that because I knew he barely did any time for that, and I didn't know if you were going to mention it. But it's just like it's infuriating, and he stalked her. Like that is a whole thing. Like the hell she went through from this guy is crazy. It goes back a long time. Like he put her through a lot. Yeah, it's crazy.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my gosh. So Julian Beck played the malevolent preacher Cain in Poltergeist 2. Beck had been diagnosed with stomach cancer in 1983 before filming began. He knew he was dying. He filmed his scenes while aware of this. His gaunt, haunting performance in the film is generally considered one of the most genuinely terrifying in the franchise history. Beck died shortly after filming wrapped, before the sequel was released. Will Sampson, who performed the exorcism on the set of Poltergeist 2, also died in 1987. He had a long-standing degenerative condition called scleroderma, which affected his heart and lungs. He underwent a heart and lung transplant, which had very low survival rate. He died post-operative kidney failure on June 3rd, 1987. And then there is Heather O'Rourke, the child actress who played Carol Ann Freeling across all 3 Poltergeist films. She was the face and the voice of the franchise. She was 12 years old in 1987 when the doctors misdiagnosed her with Crohn's disease. She was treated with cortisone. In February 1988, she woke up feeling unwell and her mother noticed her hands were cold. O'Rourke was taken to the hospital. She suffered cardiac arrest. She was airlifted to a children's hospital in San Diego. During surgery, doctors discovered a congenital bowel obstruction and that had been present since birth and had gone undetected. She died on the operating table of septic shock. She was 12 years old. Poltergeist 3 was released 4 months later. A 5th Doctor with a smaller role, Lou Perryman, who played Pugsley in the original film, was murdered in 2009, years after his involvement with the franchise by a man who broke into his home. 4 cast members across 3 films. Real human remains uses props. An exorcism conducted on set. If you were writing a horror script, this would be the part where the audience starts checking the locks on their doors. The next film is The Shining. Released in 1980 and based on Stephen King's novel The Shining, was directed by Stanley Kubrick and starred Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance, a writer who takes a job as off-season caretaker of the remote Overlook Hotel and gradually descends. Jack Torrance, a writer who takes a job as off-season caretaker of the remote Overlook Hotel and gradually descends into violent madness. The film also starred Shelley Duvall as his wife Wendy and Danny Lloyd as their son Danny. So The Shining is not cursed. Okay. So The Shining is not cursed in the way the other films on this list are. No one died in the helicopter crash. No one was shot by a prop gun. What The Shining offers instead is something that some people find more disturbing. A detailed record of what directors' obsessive pursuit of perfection did to human beings over the course of 13 months of filming. The human being was Shelley Duvall. Kubrick's methods on the film had been well documented in multiple interviews. In the behind-the-scenes documentary shot by his daughter Vivian Kubrick, in the recollections of cast and crew, he required Duvall, Nicholson, and Danny Lloyd to film a scene in which they silently walk across the street doing nothing complicated 87 times before he was satisfied with the take. He fed Nicholson only cheese sandwiches, knowing Nicholson despised them, to generate the actor's genuine frustration. He gave cast and crew constantly revised script pages so frequently that Nicholson reportedly stopped reading them and threw new versions in the trash as they arrived. For Duvall, Kubrick's methods were something else entirely. He reportedly instructed the crew not to show her not to speak with her more than necessary, and to withhold the normal comfort and camaraderie of working film set. He told them to keep her isolated and strung out. He argued with her constantly and dismissed any notes she offered about her characters or her lines. The "Give Me the Bat" scene in which Wendy holds a baseball bat above her head while Jack advances on her was filmed 127 times. Duvall was by multiple accounts in a state of ongoing psychological distress for much of the 13-month production. She told Nicholson that her character had to cry 12 hours a day for the last 9 months of the shoot, 5 or 6 days a week. She showed Nicholson's clumps of hair that had fallen out from stress. She told Kubrick she could not go on. The production continued. Kubrick later told people privately that he had been warm and friendly with Duvall off camera, which she has confirmed in interviews. She has also said that she came to appreciate what he had put her through in terms of what it produced on screen, but Shelley Duvall largely retired from acting after The Shining. And some observers believe that the experience contributed to mental health struggles that dominated her later in life. By 2024, Shelley Duvall died at her home in Blanco, Texas, of complications from diabetes. She was 75 years old. Stanley Kubrick died in March 1999 in his sleep 6 days after screening a rough cut of his final film, Eyes Wide Shut, for studio executives. There is one more detail worth noting. Partway through the production of The Shining, a massive fire broke out on the set and destroyed 2 sound stages, one of which was the set built for the bat scene. The fire was described by some accounts as an 11-alarm blaze. It was never conclusively determined. The Shining remains one of the most analyzed, discussed, and revisited films in history cinema. A 2012 documentary called Room 237 compiles numerous theories about hidden meanings in the film, some of which are compelling and some of which veer into the territory covering regularly in the show. Kubrick's obsessive attention to detail was so thorough that some believe no element of the film was accidental, that every shot and every number and every piece of furniture was placed with intent. Whether the events surrounding the production were the result of that obsession or bad luck or something the Overlook Hotel would prefer not to discuss directly is a question The Shining refuses to answer. That too is kind of a curse. So yeah.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah.
What really messed me up about that movie was like the remoteness.
Yeah.
Like
very isolating.
You can't get out. You can't, like, if you wanted help, there's no help at all.
Right.
Like, there's no way, like, cops or anything could get to you.
It's a great movie.
Yeah,
it's one of the, it's definitely a wonderful film. It's a wonderful film that I can't stand watching, if I'm being really honest. Like, one, I've seen it 100 times. It's a slow burn. Like all of his films are. His films move slow, you know? And after a while it's like, but no, it's a classic. It's still a great movie, you know?
Yeah.
But then when you know about the behind the scenes, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Kubrick. You know, he's a dick. So that's how I feel about it.
The acting,
I like some of his
movies.
Was some of them
killer.
I don't. Phenomenal.
The acting in that movie
Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. I mean, all of them. It's untouchable. Untouchable. It's so good in that. It's so good. But then, like, were they acting? Or were they really, was that really them just losing their shit? Because acting is an art and it's a craft. It's something that you do and you can put on or walk out of. You can walk into, walk out of. When you're under that much duress, I don't know if it's acting anymore. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't think I would have the patience to have to redo a scene 127 times. I would have been like, you know what? I don't need this money. Like,
you'd
that
be a
bad.
diva. You'd be a big old Hollywood diva.
Oh my God. I would have been like, you know what? I'm just going to go wash dishes somewhere.
Sandwiches? Fuck yourself. Kubrick, who the fuck do you think you are?
Oh my gosh, for real.
Okay. Well, I'm going to finish this episode off with 2 films that are cursed, not by ghosts or bad luck, but by negligence and apathy. The Conqueror and Stalker. Maybe you have seen them, maybe not. I'll give you a quick rundown on both to catch you up. The Conqueror is a film produced in 1956 about Genghis Khan, starring John Wayne playing the title role. It was shot in St. George, Utah, and was directed by Dick Powell under the RKO flag. Stalker is a 1979 Soviet sci-fi fantasy art film directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. It stars Alexander Kaidanovsky, Anatoly Solzhenitsyn, Elisa Frindlik, and Nikolai Grinko, and was shot near Tallinn, Estonia. Both films couldn't be more different. Stalker is regarded as one of the best Soviet films ever made and had critical and commercial success. And The Conqueror is regarded as one of the worst films and has been the recipient of multiple parody awards. They do share one key aspect, their death toll. Utah is home to a number of nuclear testing sites. And between 1951 and 1962, over 100 nuclear bombs were detonated at various places. So it is still a mystery why the federal government assured the filmmakers that they were safe. During filming, there were a few incidents. A flash flood that wiped out the set, a belligerent duke that went on 3-day booze benders at a time, and an actor that was hospitalized for weeks following an accident on a horse. Of course, the fallout that came years following the film is why it lands here today. The nuclear fallout, that is. Of the 220 crew members of the Conqueror, 91 of them developed cancer by 1980. Most of them at suspiciously young ages. In 1962, Dick Powell developed lymphoma and died. In January 1963, Pedro Armendariz committed suicide in June 1963 after being diagnosed with terminal cancer. Susan Hayward died of brain cancer in 1975. John Wayne developed lung cancer in 1964 and eventually died from stomach cancer in 1979. Several of Wayne's and Hayward's relatives visiting the set also had cancer scares. Wayne's son Michael developed skin cancer, and Patrick had a benign tumor removed from his breast. Hayward's son, Tim Barker, had a benign tumor removed from his mouth. Agnes Moorehead was a non-smoker, teetotaler, and health fanatic, yet died of cancer in April 1974. John Hoyt died of lung cancer in 1991. Lee Van Cleef died from a heart attack in 1989, but his secondary cause of death was listed as throat cancer. I want to add that these statistics do not include the Native American Paiute extras in the film. Dr. Robert Pendleton, a professor of biology at the University of Utah, is reported to have stated in 1980, with these numbers, this case could qualify as an epidemic. The connection between fallout radiation and cancer in individual cases has been practically impossible to prove conclusively. But in a group this size, you'd expect only 30-some cancers to develop. With 91 cancer cases, I think the tie-in to the exposure on the set of The Conqueror would hold up in a court of law. This brings us to our last film of the evening. The Curse of Stalker isn't about spooky coincidences. It's a grim story of environmental toxicity and a director's obsessive pursuit of art at the cost of human life. Tarkovsky originally wanted to film in Tajikistan? Sure. But a massive earthquake forced him to relocate. He eventually settled on an abandoned hydroelectric station and a chemical plant near the Jagala River in Estonia. There are scenes in the film where white flakes fall from the sky. This wasn't a special effect. It was toxic chemical discharge from the plant upstream. The eerie white foam seen floating on the river in several shots was actually a mixture of industrial pollutants. The crew reported that the water was so acidic it caused skin rashes and allergic reactions almost immediately. But before the toxic location even took its toll, the production was plagued by a technical disaster. Tarkovsky shot the entire movie over the course of a year on a new type of experimental Kodak 5247 film. When the film was sent to the Soviet labs, the technicians, unfamiliar with the new stock, accidentally destroyed the entire year's worth of footage during development. Tarkovsky nearly had a nervous breakdown, but instead of quitting, he demanded the budget to start over. This meant the cast and crew had to spend a second year living and breathing in the toxic environment of the chemical plant, and the deaths that followed weren't random. They were clusters of the same rare illness. Andrei Tarkovsky died of a rare lung cancer in 1986. Anatoly Solinitsyn, who played the writer, died of the exact same lung cancer. Larissa Tarkovskaya, Andrei's wife and second director, also died of the same lung cancer. The film's sound designer, Vladimir Sharoun, later stated, "We were filming near a chemical plant. Many women in the crew got rashes on their faces. I'm not a doctor, but when they all die of the same cancer, the connection is obvious." 7 years later, after the film was released, the Chernobyl disaster occurred. The real-life abandoned area around the reactor became known officially as the Zone. Just like in the film, the people who snuck into the radioactive area to salvage goods or explore became known as stalkers. The visual parallels between the movie's fictional wasteland and the real-life disaster were so exact that people began to view Tarkovsky not just as a director, but as a man who had glimpsed a dark future. Tarkovsky's art came at the ultimate price, like many of the films that we spoke about today. So to wrap our journey through the shadows of cinema, we have to ask, is a curse a supernatural marking? Or is it just what happens when human ambition collides with the chaotic laws of the universe? Some films feel cursed because they dared to knock on a specific door. The Exorcist, The Omen, Rosemary's Baby, and The Passion of the Christ. Then there are the roles that seem to demand a sacrifice from those who wear the mantle. Superman, Atuk, The Crow, and The Dark Knight. Sometimes the curse is simply the ghost of bad decisions. Twilight Zone, The Wizard of Oz, The Conqueror, and Stalker. Is it a curse? Or is it just that when you gather the world's most creative, obsessive, and sometimes reckless people to capture a masterpiece, the friction creates a spark that can burn the whole house down? And that's it, guys.
Oh my
That's all
gosh.
I got. Crazy, right?
Dude, that is fucking nuts.
So many people died of cancer after those movies. Like,
It's
I could not believe it.
crazy.
And then the Attic thing, you know how many, like, Chris Farley, John Candy, Belushi, like all the, Sam Kinison, like it's crazy.
Yeah, that
Oh my
is
God,
nuts.
I hope Jack Black never takes that role. Please don't take
My
that role,
God, I
Jack Black.
know.
We need you here, Jack Black. As long as you'll be here, we need you.
For real.
We do. He's such a gem.
He is. My gosh. All right. So do you want to let people know what our next episode's on?
Yeah, our next and last one, we're wrapping up our spooky season with Area 51, guys.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I hope you guys are too. And if you guys need any information about this show, please visit our website. It's thisjustin and it's grim.com.
Yep. All right. And see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.